Hey, we thought we'd do something a little different this time, have a little more fun. Tell you a little story. People often ask, I got a couple stories, but people often ask how we got started, well, it was, and what BSB stands for. So it's kind of a funny deal. We was racing back in the 90s, late 90s, we were racing 5 cars. We had stock cars. They called them road runners and thumpers back in them days. But we had 4 or 5 of them. We had a late model, a sportsman car, and these 3 stock cars. So we started building cars, and we were building them in my garage at home. And at that time, I had my cousin living with me, and he loved cars and he loved country music. He wanted to be a country singer. He had a great voice. He was actually a good singer. And at that time, you could go up to Wichita in the mall and you could actually cut a CD and with a cover and everything. And my cousin had done this. He had cut a couple of CDs and they were actually pretty good. He loved cars, but he wasn't the most mechanical. But he was living with me. He was in between girlfriends. He was living with me. I was trying to help him out a little bit, but he loved to come in and see what we was doing. And so I come home, like I said, he loved music. I come home one night and he was nowhere to be found. Every light in the house, I was working nights, every light in the house was on. And the stereo's blasting. I mean, he loved loud music. So I turned the stereo off, turned the lights off. I'm like, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, I'm like, where in the heck is he? I step outside and I hear this singing. And I go back and I look over the fence, and there he is over at the neighbor's house. And down the street a little bit, they were rental properties. And they're down there singing Old Chunk of Coal, and I'm like, what in the heck? Right in the middle of them, there's my cousin. So he realizes the lights are going off, the sound over there is going off. He comes running over, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, dude, we're just drinking some beer. We're just having some fun. And I'm like, no, don't be doing this. Because next thing you know, they're going to be over here. Long story short, the next day I told one of our drivers, I said, Mark's over there playing, singing. They're doing this, and he's like, oh, he's got his own band going. And I'm like, no, don't be teasing him. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, don't. And he goes, I lived on Blaine Street. So he goes, oh, the Blaine Street Boys. And I'm like, no. I said, don't tease him about it. He's like, no, I won't. So next day we're working on the cars. Hear Mark pull up. He comes in. He's like, hey, everybody. And then our driver's over there going, hey, Mark, I hear you got your own band. And I'm like, no, don't do it. And so we started teasing him a little bit about the Blaine Street Boys. And we put BSB on stuff. And we'd build a part and we'd put BSB on it. And we'd show it to him. He'd come plowing in there and he'd say, hey, Mark, look what we built. And he'd see it and he'd get mad at us and then leave. Well, when we lettered the cars, we put BSB on the side of it, just kind of teasing. At the same time, I was trying to work a deal with Speedway Motors to get some product in there, and we'd build close-up kits for engines. And I was pushing that deal, and the buyer finally said, okay, we'll buy them. $800 a month. He said, what do you call the place? And I'm like, don't have a name. But BSB, if you want to put that down, that'll work. BSB Manufacturing. And so kind of from a joke and humor and having fun led to where we are today. 27, 28 years later, we're still here in Wellington, Kansas. We're still producing some of the highest quality, best race car parts on the market. We're not the biggest. We're not the funnest. We're not the everybody's buddy. I've done all the sponsorship stuff. I've helped all the guys, you know, from Scott Bloomquist. Hey, one of our best current customers, sponsored supporters in New York, Jake Maynard. Um, I help him, you know, and he's just like everybody else. He's just a Saturday night racer, you know. So we've kind of done it all, not trying to prove anything, but almost 30 years later, here we are. One of my first dates, well, that maybe is another story, you know. One of our first dates with my wife, we built close up kits. So that's just how it went. So that's where BSB come from, if anybody wants to know. So